friend of mine, John Milius, actually was a huge fan of Kurosawa. And so whenever their film was showing it, oh, you gotta come and see this, you gotta come and see this. And after the first one, the first one I saw was Seven Samurai, and after that I was completely hooked and said, this is really good.
Well, the first Godzilla, which I saw as a kid, was such a gloomy movie. And in the middle of all of this, there was a monster that I fell in love with. I was like, I love that creature. I love Godzilla. I wanted to see more and more. I'm always been a monster guy. So when I see a monster movie, I want to see the monster. And Godzilla was one of those movies where, as a monster lover, you got your ticket's worth. You got your satisfaction of seeing it.
In Japan's southwestern islands.
In the 1950s, between the end of the Allied occupation of Japan and the rise of television, Japanese cinema reached both its commercial peak as well as arguably its artistic peak. Many Japanese directors were receiving recognition from international film festivals, including directors Mizoguchi Kenji and Akira Kurosawa. Many films made during this time discussed either literally or metaphorically the Japanese transition between wartime militarism and post-war pacifism. Some directors were criticized for the betrayals of these ideas. For example, director Tadashi Imai, most notably known for his films An Inlet of Muddy Water and Bushido, the Samurai Saga, was plagued by his reputation and perceived left-wing ideals after making the transition from the production of propaganda films during the war to a shift in more left-wing pacifistic values. Some directors were able to portray these ideas to greater international success, making them household names. Two of these directors are Akira Kurosawa, director of films like Seven Samurai and Rashomon, and Ishiro Honda, director of Godzilla. Both directors created films discussing the culture of post-war Japan and its impact on a personal level. Films that had a deep impact on international audiences, and specifically American filmmakers.
Someone once asked Mr. Kurosawa if his movies have a common theme. His answer was that they ask a common question. Why can't people be happier together? He has put that question in contemporary terms and in films of epic historical sweep.
After World War II, Hollywood films became substantially more expensive to book and rent. As a result, theaters began looking for alternatives. According to Barbara Walensky, one such alternative was foreign film, opening the art house cinema door in the US to filmmakers like Akira Kurosawa. Japanese-born director Akira Kurosawa, originally trained as a painter, made his way into the film world as an assistant director before working his way up in stature to direct his debut film in 1943, entitled Sanshiro Sugata. He would go on to direct 10 more films before releasing what is arguably his most famous work, Rashomon, in 1950. The film follows different accounts of a murder with no clear suspect, recounts shared under a partially destroyed city gate. It is revealed in the film that the gate was destroyed by years of civil war, an allegory for the destruction of Japan during World War II. The different perspectives on the event highlight the different worldviews held by the different participants, which all change how each person sees the event. It is argued throughout the film that each story is altered to protect the ego of the person recounting the murder. Kurosawa had stated in 1987 that his aim as a filmmaker was to give people strength to live and face life, to help them live more powerfully and happily. In the wake of World War II, Japan had moved from an empirical mindset to defeat and occupation by the Allied forces, causing much of Japan to lose its belief on which to found a duty. The different recounts of Rashomon offer different perspectives on how to solve this issue. The old pre-war vision of a hopeful future springing from a glorious past is lost, and the way to recovery lies through a maze of dubious thoughts or selective truths about misfortune, guilt, and shame. In this film, Kurosawa suggests that a person is what they do. In the present, what that person feels, thinks, or intends, or felt, thought, and intended in the past is unknowable, even by the person themselves. Rashomon would go on to much success both inside and outside of Japan. It is argued that a large reason for the film's success for Western audiences was due to its cultural accessibility. Kurosawa would often assert that the Western and Japanese live side by side in his mind, without the least sense of conflict. His admiration for American directors shines through his work, directors like John Ford, William Wyler, and Frank Capra. Several directors have listed Kurosawa as inspiration, including George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Robert Altman. 4 years after the release of Rashomon, the world saw the release of Godzilla, a dark monster picture that discussed themes of nuclear testing, genocide, and the morality of humanity. A film that had quite a bit of similar themes as Rashomon, but was received very differently. Scholars such as Megan Warner-Medler argue that Rashomon's success was largely due to the perception of Japan it offered to American audiences, as decided by American producers in the wake of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War. Rashomon reinforced U.S. foreign policy goals at the time, presenting Japan as a cultured and non-threatening ally. Rashomon would eventually be included in propaganda events held by the State Department to paint Japan as a new exotic ally. Godzilla, in contrast, offered a sharp critique of U.S. nuclear testing. After the final battle between the citizens of Japan and the monster Gojira, the film makes this devastating warning.
もし水爆実験が続けて行われるとしたら、ゴジラの
Due to its overt stance against U.S. nuclear testing, Japan had an express effort to leave Godzilla out of its campaign of art films exported to America, promoting Rashomon in its place to help rehabilitate the nation's post-war image as an artistic and sophisticated culture. While Rashomon was praised by critics, they were quick to write off Godzilla as trash cinema. However, due to the film's inability to become a cultural icon, Godzilla would become an icon on its own, as producers would edit the film as a commercial product, and American audiences would enjoy it like any other U.S. action thriller, cementing the monster movie as a transnational icon. Both films would be played in very different theaters and settings, but had a deep impact on American audiences regardless of venue.